Hi everyone. We're going to showcase a brush today. This one being our blush and bronzer. One of my favorites. Don't tell the others, right? But the blush and bronzer brush. So I'm going to do my entire face just using this brush. But let's talk through it first. So this is a light to medium coverage brush. Now, the reason why it's light to medium is because this big fluffy end here is going to bring the light aspect of it all. So when we're using this end here, it's not very dense, right? It has a lot of movement to it. So it's going to give more of that lighter coverage or the most natural looking look to our face, right? So a lot of times we will use this for our bronzer, right? Because we're trying to create the most natural look on our face of that sun-kissed warmth. So that's why we love using this big fluffy end, because it's going to give you a very light coverage. Now the medium coverage comes in when you flip it over. This side here is a lot more dense. So when you push on it, it doesn't have as much movement versus this side. Okay, see the difference? When it starts to get more dense, more bristles in that one area, that's when you start to get fuller coverage, okay? So when you compare this to something like the powder brush or the buff brush, that's gonna have fullest coverage because those don't have as much give to it, but this one is kind of in that medium zone. So that's why I love being able to use this one to apply my colors, my highlights on my face, because I'm still getting that medium coverage. I'm covering some of my distractions on my face, getting into some of the lines, covering up any acne that I have, but yet it's still gonna look super natural. And then I can come in at the end with some of my favorite products, like my bronzer, adding a little bit of lip and cheek color with the light coverage. So let's do my makeup and go from there. Again, I'm gonna use just one brush today and let's see how it goes. Usually I pair this with the detail, my other favorite. It's like my two daughters, I have two favorites. What can you say? But we're just gonna use the blush and bronzer. So I'm gonna come into my brightening highlight color. And I'm gonna stamp these colors on. When we're using this brush, it's a little bit fuller than something like the tip of the detail. So for me, it's super important that when I'm putting these colors on, I give it time to acclimate to my skin, so that way it makes blending a lot easier in these little crevices, okay? I'll put a little bit here. Typically, I don't put a lot on my nose because I have a lot of freckling. You could take your brightener straight down, okay? Because remember, we are brightening down the center of our face and adding contour and shape towards the outside of our face. All right, now I'm gonna come into my contour. Speaking of, I'm going to use this small end here, but I'm gonna pinch it, okay? I like to be able to get a little bit more of a defined contour line. So again, I'm stamping it in, but by pinching this side of my brush, it keeps that contour a lot thinner, which is what I personally prefer, because when you start to get too wide, then you start to get like those, it looks like it's kind of pitting in your face, right? So we wanna keep our contour outsides of our eyes, up into our hairline with a little bit of lift. So just follow your natural structure. I'm now going to stipple on in, and let's put some contour up by my forehead. You know me, I'm all about keeping it tight up to my hairline, so that way when I blend, I don't have that no makeup line and it looks super natural. Excess, I'm gonna pull down along my jawline. Remember, we always take that contour underneath our jawline, not on top of it. And I'm just using up the excess there. Now, how I typically use this brush, I'm gonna come into my main color. Let's start with our neck. We're just gonna blend my main color right into that contour that I just placed along my jawline. super natural. I know I have a little friend over here, so we'll make sure he's covered. Now I'm going to stipple it onto my face. Again, you could do small circles. You could swipe it back and forth. I like to stipple, so I get a little extra coverage in my fine lines, my acne scarring, and whatever little friends are popping up that time of the month. Stipple on up. Let's fill in this area. So I'm still doing the same technique as I normally would with some of the other applications. I'm just using one brush. So it can be done, ladies. Okay, let's come down the center of our nose. Add a little bit more. And now this should be nice and acclimated. I oftentimes like to look up, especially when I'm using a little bit bigger of a brush. It allows you to kind of get right up under our eye. Under, and then just lift. Remember, it's in these little pockets of area where we start to kind of sink in. Our temples like to sink in as we mature. So by adding that brightener in this area instead of a contour, it's just gonna bring light into it. So that way, I'm not accentuating the little pitting that I have going on in my temple area. Now let's just come blend in this contour. Remember, pull it back into our hairline. Let it kind of merge in with our main highlight that we just put up there. Beautiful. So this works just as well. And now I'm going to come stamp, just like I would if I use something like the detail brush or the buff, but I'm just stamping it and flicking it upward. And until you get that desired look. So again, as you can see, this side of the brush is more that medium coverage. So I'm getting coverage, especially in some of my pitting, any of my fine lines, wrinkles. It's covering it up with that medium coverage, but yet it still looks very natural and forgiving, right? That's why I love this brush. Now let's flip on over to the big fluffy end. And this is where I love coming in with a little bit of bronzer, and then we'll add some lip and cheek color. So the big fluffy end, and this is why I love putting two bronzer colors right next to each other, or sometimes depending on my mood. So like this is Bella and tan lines, and I put them together so I have more square footage because it's a bigger bristled end. I have a little bit more square footage and I get a little bit more depth and dimension and just luminosity to my skin by adding the two different colors. Otherwise, a lot of times you'll see me paired up with Glow Illuminator. Again, so I have two tins right next to each other. I can fill up my brush. I'm using less product and just saving a step. Okay, I'm going to gently pat this around. Remember, think of it as like a crescent moon around each of your eyes. That's where the sun would kiss your face. And now with using this really big, fluffy, light end of my brush, it's gonna give you the most natural look. Okay, so if you are one who you are really wanting to bring a little bit more bronzer, a little bit more warmth to your skin, you could definitely use this end, and it's gonna pull in a little bit more color because of the density of your bristles. Using this big fluffy end, it's gonna be a little bit more light. Let's take a little bit down my nose, and as always, down my neck. There, just a little bit of warmth. Okay, let's come on over. Shall we pick a color? I don't even know what colors I have in here. I've been playing around and changing things up. Ooh, that one's Wallflower. Let's come in. If I don't change them up, I don't get to play with all of them. I'm gonna come into Nude. So again, I like using the big fluffy end because I like that natural look. If you are one that really enjoys a bright, bold color, use that denser end, okay? And again, when I do it, kind of like when I put my contour on, you notice how I pinch my brush just a tad so I can create that 3 different layers. So I have my contour, my lip and cheek, and then my brightener. Just gonna use my finger here. Let's add nude to my lips. And for giggles, let's add a little bit of La Cienega. It's that bright one, because it has a little bit of gloss to her, a little bit of gold flecks, and I like to just kind of keep it right in the center and merge those 2 colors together. Even though I said I was only going to use 1 brush, you know me, ladies, you have to come in with your line brush at the end, brush through those brows, get that makeup out. Can we see the difference already? It's just helping lift, open up those eyes a little bit. There we go. We're done. So again, blush and bronzer, light to medium coverage. Again, it's just depending on what end you are using. The denser, the less give that the bristles have, the more coverage it's going to provide, versus the give like this, you're gonna have more light coverage, okay? So that's the blush and bronzer. And we did my whole face with it. Super simple, right? All right, any questions, let me know. Otherwise, hope you enjoyed and you are really taking advantage of this amazing brush. Have a great day.